And we are live.
Not live yet, just.
Greetings, and welcome to the Goblin King's cavern. And this is Goblin King's Compendium of Creatures, and I'm here with Mr. William, I believe.
Hello.
And we had originally planned to talk about fairies, but the person who was going to talk about fairies with us did not come on tonight, so it's pretty much a free-for-all tonight. Anybody who comes in who gets in the comments, if there's something you want us to talk about, feel free to throw suggestions out there, but beyond that, we'll pretty much just talk about whatever for an hour.
Yeah.
Anything you'd want to talk about, sir?
I can say y'all's last stream about the dragons, that was extremely interesting.
Well, thank you. Dragons are one of my passions. They are a creature that I've always had a lot of love for.
They've always interested me, and because they're in everything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've always said there's three creatures you can never get me to not believe in: dragons, fairies, and vampires, because almost every single culture in the world has something that resembles those three things.
They've actually found one on an island. It's a little baby lizard, but it looks like a little, miniature dragon.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of cool.
The little black one that's got like little flesh wings underneath its arms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's one I found online that I actually based a custom anthropomorphic animal species off of. Let's see if I can find it. I think I still have the image of it saved. Okay.
But I've always been into reptiles, all kinds. Man.
Me too. I've never been willing to actually own one, but only because of the fact that I'm afraid I wouldn't take good care of it. Yeah, it's called I don't know if you can see it that well, the armadillo lizard.
Yeah.
And they're absolutely adorable. They look like little mini drakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I created wrong app. Whether or not I create focus. Shoot. Yeah. I don't know if you can see it that well, but it's called a bone drake.
Okay.
Stop it, Jess. I'm not seeing any comments. I don't know if that's my fault or what. We must not have any viewers at the moment. Or we do, and I'm just not seeing them. One of the two.
It's my first time running it, too.
Oh, hello. Yes, we are talking about dragons because we don't know what else to talk about. So that's what we got at the moment. So I'm actually brain dead at the moment because I don't know what to talk about, and usually at least I have something planned. Yes, dragon. Dragon of all kinds. Yeah. My brain is just going on me right now. My brain has literally gone full goblin.
So, what do you think about snakes?
Depends on the size and the violence level of them. If I can hold them and they won't kill me, we're good. I don't mind them. The moment they want to kill me and they are big enough to be like in a blockbuster movie, yeah, I'm out of there. It's like, oh, you could swallow me in one bite, huh? No.
The only one you have to worry
Just
about
really like
with
the little
that would be the
noodles and all, I like
reject.
that. One of my biggest heartbreaks involving a snake. I had a teacher who was our marine biology teacher, and he had this giant python. And every day, one of us would go in and either feed it or go and talk to it or something for a few minutes before class started. And we went in, and today it was me who decided to go over there. And I looked at it, and it wasn't like a very active snake, but it wasn't usually this still.
Yeah.
And I looked, and then it hit me, and I'm like, sir, I think I have some bad news for you. He says, no. And I said, I think the snake's dead. And he walks over there, and sure enough, the snake passed. So he just let us spend the rest of the day mourning in the class because we had all become friends with this snake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it is a Dragon's Continued Day because we don't know what else to talk about. And you're apparently the only nerd watching us, Skeleton Kate.
So, is there anything that you're studying currently?
Not off the top of my head. Though I have actually been building lore for a character of mine in a live action roleplay I'm part of. And if any of y'all are interested in joining a live action roleplay, look online. There's one called Amtgard, AMTGARD. You can find locations just about everywhere. I think they even have some overseas. And I'm currently bouncing back and forth between wizard and assassin, but my character in that, his name is Emrys Caldertorp, which you probably notice, or Fergus Caldertorp, which you probably noticed on my main account. And in his family's backstory, his grandfather tried to fight this gigantic boar who has silver fur, and he managed to cut off one of his tusks, but not killing it. But so on his deathbed, he told us the truth, and now me and my two friends, who were also considered Caldertorps, have to go hunt down this boar and kill it. So I've kind of been like in the mindset of thinking about, I guess for lack of a better name for them, dire animals that are just unnecessarily oversized. Like when you see, like, oh, here's a boar. Oh, that's not a boar. That's a dire boar. And then you get stuff like the Tarask in D&D, a giant freaking reptile-ish lizard anti-magic monster thingy or whatever that's just, oh my effing Jesus. You look at it and you're just scarred for like 5 minutes because you know you're probably about to die.
Well, there are a group that believe that everything was supersized not too long ago due to the fact that trees were extensively larger than what they currently are today. And that the reason for that was because of the size of the animals.
Would you be interested in? Yeah, can't even words. Would you be interested in showing off your snakes?
Anybody wants to see some?
Skeleton Key Network suggested it, so I'm assuming they would like to see it. And I like snakes. I would have no problem seeing snakes. The only thing I have to show off is a bunch of cats, but they're all sleeping, and I think I'd like to keep it that way.
Yeah, mine's sleeping too. Is this... will it hold a charge? Do what?
Don't mind me eating pickles.
Well, it's fine. How about this? Alright, I'll be right back.
Nasvenya babalitsi baba. Winya ye winya. Nasvenya babalitsi babo. Winya nyaba. Eba. Winya ye winya. The day we arrive on the plan. Blinking, stepped into the sun. There's more to see than can ever be seen. More to do than can ever be done. There's far too much to take in here. More to find than can never be found. In sapphire skies, take me to the endless ground. It's the circle of life, and it moves us all on. Ooh, I see a snake. It is a pretty albino ball, isn't it?
Yes. This is actually the one that my daughter picked out in the very beginning that got the whole collection started.
I've always wanted an albino ball python. They're so pretty. Just like a giant red-eyed banana. It's so cute. Apparently, from what I read, it looks like we accidentally somehow got double booked. Apparently, there's someone on another network we're connected to who's also streaming right now, and that's probably why nobody's over here.
Is it double booked? Huh?
So what's this adorable little danger noodle's name?
Mr. Giggles.
Awesome.
Tickles.
So pretty. Gosh. What do you have to you too? I love snakes. I've always wanted a little lizard. like, I just want to hang out.
That's all he does.
Hey,
They're kind of lazy.
and that's fine. When you're a lazy person, having a lazy pet's fun because you can just poke with.
Like, he won't go very far.
I've
I've
always
got
wanted
a.
something like that would just like wrap around my arm and I could be dancing while it sits there.
Yeah, they're not. Ball pythons don't really do much.
I mean, I've always liked snakes because, first off, I don't understand why people label them slimy. They are not slimy.
Mm,
I mean, they're not gross. I mean, yeah, watching them eat can be weird. Like when you see the giant lump move through their body, you're like, that's kind of gross. Okay, I'll give people that. But just generally speaking, I mean, they're not even really that scary until you see the ones that bite. Those are the ones that look scary because you'll see like teeth. They're like, it look like they're not just gonna bite you. They're gonna bite everything through you.
yeah. I tell you what, if you see an Amazon tree boa, they're gorgeous. But if you peel back and look at their fangs, they are horrifying.
Mm-hmm. It's like honestly, the one snake that I would say I find the scariest is probably a king cobra, but only because of how menacing they try to look. So they already
Yeah.
look menacing, and then on top of it, the way they it just makes it worse. It's just like, oh, you are not friendly. I'm just gonna back away now.
Well,
Of course, those wide-headed rattlesnakes. They're kind of scary looking too.
for the most part, if you come across any of them, they just want to get away from you.
Mm-hmm.
They
Oh, my
don't.
golden rule is if I hear the rattle of a rattlesnake, or if I look down and see a snake and it's arched back like it's gonna strike, I will slowly back away. But no, I'm not a threat. I just didn't know you were there.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the time. That's all it is. They don't want to bite.
Right.
Where are you going?
Just like I've been saying this upswing, and I don't know if it's a comic book or if it's a meme or what, but it shows Medusa, and it's like people are decorating the snakes in her hair by putting like little bows on them and stuff, and the snake always looks so happy, and I'm like, see, this is the type of stuff I like to see. People taking mythological creatures and being like, no, there has to be nothing dangerous or scary about it.. Let's make it fun friendly.
Yeah.
And then I saw one that really made me laugh. It says, when King Midas met Medusa, she opens the door and you see that they're shaking hands. She's turned to solid gold. He's turned to solid stone. And I'm just like, bad day in mythology land. Like,
That would be interesting.
oh yeah. And what gets me is a lot of the stories, especially in Greek, if nothing else in Greek, the creatures you find that people make monsters out of are usually the victims of all the BS that happened from the previous situation. Like, I think Medusa, one of the stories I heard from Medusa was that her, before she got looking all monstrous, two of the goddesses, I want to say Hera and Aphrodite, were doing like a beauty contest. And the problem was the judge for the beauty contest was one of them's husband. I think one of the goddesses' husband. I think it was Aphrodite's husband. I think Hephaestus, I think. And, so he had to pick which one he thought was the prettiest. he picked Medusa. And so I can't remember if it was Hera who did it or Aphrodite who did it, but one of them said fine, and they cursed Medusa to make it to where any man that looked at her would turn to stone. Well, there's an alternate story I found online that I really like the concept of. And it says that if you go deeper into the story, there's something that you find that basically says Hephaestus kept having sex with Medusa against her will. And so that instead of it being a curse, the goddesses were giving her a way to protect herself by giving her the ability to turn anyone who she felt threatened by to stone. Which would explain why all the people you see in all the movies and lore that are turned to stone are people who were there to kill her. It was people she was threatened by.
That makes sense.
And of course, the story of the Minotaur. Yeah, the Minotaur is practically the victim of this whole situation. So, King Minos was holding this great festival for Zeus. Well, he's got everything planned out, everything's going perfect. Until at the last minute he realized, oh shit, I forgot the sacrifice for Zeus. Well, Zeus appears to him and is like, look man, I got you covered. Sacrifice this bull to me. And he gives him a bull. And apparently this is the most perfect bull ever. It's the most glorious bull to ever walk this earth. Well, King Minos decides he wants to keep this bull for himself, and he's not going to offer it to Zeus as a sacrifice like he had arranged. So, Zeus then causes the bull to sleep with Minos' wife, and she proceeds to get pregnant, giving birth to the Minotaur. King Minos, in his rage, then puts the Minotaur in a maze made by Daedalus that it's stuck in forever. The only thing it has to eat is anyone that Minos sends into the labyrinth. Yeah. And there are too many times where different deities catch heck for another deity's action. Like Hod, I believe is his name, in the Norse mythology. Hod accidentally kills Balder due to the actions of Loki. So Balder is this perfect god. He is beautiful. He's supposed to be, the greatest thing to ever walk this planet. Well, there was a prophecy that he was going to be killed. So, Frigg, in her great love for her son, went around the world and made everything, every plant, animal, human, god, everything that she could find, promise to never hurt Balder or to never kill him. The only exception being mistletoe, because it was too young to make promises. So, for the rest of his life, it became a game to throw weapons and everything they could at Balder to try to kill him. But because of the promises they made, none of the things could do it. They would bounce off him, or they would change their course of flight if they were an arrow or something like that, to where nothing could kill him. Nothing would work. Well, Hod was one of his brothers. Hod's blind, so he couldn't see, so therefore he couldn't participate. Well, one year, as a joke, because that's Loki's whole shtick, he likes to play jokes. I don't truly believe he was trying to kill Balder. I think he was trying to bring Balder down a peg or two and be like, see, something can hurt you. he found out about the mistletoe. Now, some translations call it a spear, some call it an arrow, but essentially a projectile made of mistletoe. He got a projectile made of mistletoe and said, Hod, wouldn't you like to participate? He says, well, I would love to, brother, but I can't see. I can't hit Balder with anything because I can't see where he is. He says, don't worry, brother, I'll help you aim. All you got to do is throw it. And he's like, okay, sure. And so he points Hod in the right direction, and Hod throws it. And it kills Balder. Well, here's where things get tricky. Loki managed to hide the fact that he assisted in this. In their rage, Odin and Frigg managed to give birth to a child in the course of like a week, I think is what it says. And this child was specifically born to kill Hod. And it does its job. Hod dies. Well, years pass, and they're throwing this party at Njord, the god of the sea's house. And the way the story is told, more or less, Loki had one drink too many, was tired of everyone's shit, and decided to be like, hey, by the way, I killed Balder. And yeah, none of the other gods were having that shit. That's when the whole him being hung up and having a snake drip acidic venom on his face became his new fate. Yeah. And I'm just like, y'all should have resurrected Hod and let him pick the punishment.
That would have been fair.
Yeah, because since you punished him for not knowing the whole situation.
He's blind. He didn't know.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I love studying mythology. I love studying different lore. Like, Thor's hammer being as short as it was actually an accident. Like, so, Loki and some dwarves made a bet with each other about who could make better gifts for the gods. Well, you know, it all started due to Loki pulling a prank where one of the goddesses lost all her hair, which was supposed to be her defining trait or whatever. So he made her a hair piece that's supposed to be all the hair is made of the thinnest spun gold or something like that. Well, the dwarves see the stuff he makes and they're like, oh, we can make better than that. And he's like, okay. Well, they go to making different gifts, and one of the gifts they make is supposed to be this great battle hammer for Thor. Well, Loki realizes he might actually lose this bet. So he starts trying to distract one of the dwarves who's working the bellows for the forge, because the dwarves made it clear to each other that if the forge does not stay at a certain temperature, it's going to mess up the gifts and make it to where they lose. So he turns into like a small biting fly. Flies up and starts biting on this dwarf. Well, he manages to, shoo him off a few times. Well, finally he bites this dwarf directly in the eye, causing him to let go of the bellows and to try to wipe his eye and all that. Well, he gets the bellows back up and going, and they're going to finish up the hammer, and they're hammering out the handle to make it, perfectly shaped. And on the final strike, it breaks the handle right in the middle, making it a short-handled warhammer. Well, they're like, well, shit, we're in trouble now. They go to present the gifts to Thor, and Thor sees it, and he's giving him this weird look, like, why does this hammer have such a short handle? And they're like, no, it's a modern idea, a hammer that is easily portable to where you don't have to carry it in any special way, to where you can carry it in your hand at all times. And Thor buys it. and they win the bet because of how clever they were. And they're so
clever.
Yeah, I love it because of the fact that in all these stories, regardless of what culture you go to, the mythology stories are always so interesting. And I love mythology. I will say, though, one of the aspects of mythology I've always loved is creation stories. And probably one of the weirdest ones I've heard is the Norse. But it's not the creation of people that I find weird. No, that one's actually quite interesting. It's the creation of our world as it is that's weird. So, you have this planet that's all fire, and it is ruled over by Surt, this giant who's making a weapon that's going to be the weapon he uses at Ragnarok. But then you have this planet of all ice. Well, on this planet of all ice, there's this cow. Well, this cow is walking around, this cow's hungry, and she notices this little tuft of something coming out of the ice. So she starts licking it out of curiosity. She's licking the ice to make sure she stays fed and all that because that's what she has. Well, the more she licks, the more it reveals, and eventually it reveals a giant. Like the first giant. I can't remember if it's Ymir or if it's another one. It's like the first giant. And, that giant eventually creates children and all that, and that's supposed to be where Odin, Vili, and Fae, I think are their names, because those are his two brothers. And they end up fighting the giants at some point, and they take the first giant, kill him, his bones, some of his bones become the earth and mountains, his blood becomes the ocean, and his skull becomes like the actual earth that we walk on. And so his body basically creates our planet. Mm. Well, then at one point they're walking along a beach, and they see these two trees, and I want to say it's ash and yew, or ash and elm. And one of them gives them shape. One of them, each one contributes something. I can't remember what all it was. But then Odin breathes life into them, and they become the first man and woman. But I found it so interesting that their idea of how everything came into being was there was a cow who was thirsty, so it licked some ice.
It started somewhere.
Right. And I'm like...
And it could be just that simple.
At first I'm like, that is way too simple and too... what? To make sense, but... I mean... if you really think about it, it's as good as explanation as anything else. I mean, one of the theories is that literally something that somehow existed in nothing exploded and created everything. But if there was nothing, how could that something have appeared?
Yeah.
And so I personally lean into the concept of believing that all religions have some truth, but no one religion is complete truth. And I believe that for almost every culture in the world to have gods and goddesses who all share similar archetypes, to have any religion say that all those are lies, the fact that every single culture had those archetypes, almost every religion had a god of the sun, or a goddess of the sun, a god or goddess of the moon, gods or goddesses of the ocean, gods or goddesses of war, gods or goddesses of love. Almost every every type of aspect you can think of had a god or goddess associated. Thousands of cultures were wrong in this one religion that came around after was right. My mentality is this. I think what it was, all these old religions existed. They had multi-gods. Then you had Catholicism that went, no, we want you to worship our gods. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn all your gods into saints to make it easier for you to transition to following our God. And then shortly after that, they went, okay, that worked. Now let's strip those other gods away and now you just worship ours. And that's where Christianity comes in. But that's just my opinion. I don't know if that's true. Having to deal with a danger noodle, making your neck a little rough.
I slipped. Here. Can't be on one side.
I'm running out of ideas and we're only 36 minutes in.
Yeah. There has to be a beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened.
Just like there's a book I have called Betwixt and Between. It's supposed to be fairy magic. Their idea is that there is a universal mother who gave birth to everything. Well, I like that idea because how does almost everything in this world come into being? Something gives birth to it. Even with plants, there is a genetic male and female that help produce the seed. So why wouldn't there be a universal couple or anything like that that could have birthed everything into existence?
Yeah.
That's why I like how in witchcraft they have the Lord and the Lady versus just, God or goddess. I'm just a goblin over here eating pickles.
Have you heard that there are a whole group of people that believe that the sky is actually a hologram at this point?
I think it's an interesting concept.
I talked to one of the guys. He said that we haven't seen the real sky in like 6 years.
I have theories and ideas, not that I wouldn't call them beliefs because they're not something I'm swearing myself to. But I have theories and ideas, like if this were the case, this is what I think. I do think it could be possible that we are in some type of giant simulation or something like that. Because me and many other people have noticed that if we try to look back into our life, once we get to a certain point, we can't remember anything. And what if it's because everything up to the point of us being, quote unquote, uploaded into this simulation, we can only remember everything from the time we were uploaded and onwards, and not everything before. Because maybe prior to that, it has no way of recreating that data. And that, makes me love seeing these things you see online where there's a glitch in the Matrix where you see something happen that makes no sense, that couldn't have happened. Like I just saw one the other day where you see this woman in a red dress and this child she's walking with at Disneyland. You see him walking forward, and out of nowhere, from in front of the woman in red, walks a man in a red shirt that you could not see anywhere in the image before he walks out from in front of her. Prior to him walking out in front of her, he was not on the other side of her. He wasn't directly in front of her where he could be seen. He just appears out from in front of her, as if he just teleported into place. So I think the concept of us all being in a simulation or there being a digitized part of the world, I think it's something that could happen, but I kind of like how the Matrix talked about it in the third Matrix movie, where I think at first they would try to give us the perfect world, and then shit would happen where we wouldn't accept it. But if they tried to make it more realistic by adding a lot of drama and stuff like that, if it were truly digital, I think one of us would have figured it out in fullness by now. Because some of the stuff that is being an issue in our world should have been resolved by now. The fact that it's still being a thing is either A, we're just in a really shitty world, or the simulation has no way of fixing it without it being too obvious that we'd be in a simulation.
Well, and no government wants all their people to be on the same page.
Right. So, like, we still have issues with racism. Racism shouldn't be a thing at this point. We have all lived through so much crap that racism should not even be a subject.
Absolutely.
Yes, I've noticed the craziness going on involving LGBT and transgender and all that. I mean, deep down, if you think about it, we've all had things that implied it throughout history. It should not be a new thought to anybody. We should not be panicking like we are.
No.
And just like this whole, transgender people shouldn't be able to go into the bathroom of the gender they identify as because they might do something creepy to kids. Okay, first off, I don't know about you, but regardless of what bathroom I'm going into, I'm not thinking about doing something to somebody. I'm thinking about going to pee.
Well, and then
handle my business, and that's it.
And I don't know any parents that do not assist their young kids.
Right. And if you were to see someone being creepy at that point, then yes, by all means, report it, have something done about it. But if a person just goes in the bathroom to use the bathroom, shut the fuck up and let them use the restroom. Simple as that. I grew up with a mother who was lesbian, and I was around LGBTQ people all the time. Honestly, I have yet to meet anyone in the LGBTQ community who wasn't an awesome person.
I grew up in a very Catholic family.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has experienced something different.
Part of my family wasn't even allowed to watch Pokemon and Harry Potter.
And with some of the stuff that's being revealed about Harry Potter, I can almost understand that. But with Pokemon, the only thing evil about it, in all technicality,
not the views
it's
of
technically dogfighting.
They hated the whole premise of Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
It had,
and I mean,
and then
really, Harry Potter wasn't even that bad, especially if you watch the movie. It makes it seem so minor. But
and then I married a witch.
Hey, you do what you do in love. That's all there is to it. And that's why, I am the way I am. I'm a proud polyamorous pansexual pagan. Because you never know who in the world you're going to love. So, Why not just be open to loving everybody?
And at the end of the day, it doesn't affect anybody, so I don't understand why people
I don't know why
care as much
jump
as
in
they
my
do.
bed and tell me how I should sleep with who I should sleep with.
You know, they're not trying to tell everybody that, you know, that everybody needs to be gay.
Right. I mean, if by all means, if a gay couple breaks into your house and starts fucking in front of you, by all means, put a stop.
Yes.
But if they're in their own house doing their own thing, leave them the hell alone.
They're not trying to tell you how to live your life.
Right. I just like, there's this crap going on where straights are trying to say we need a Pride Month. Why? Name me one country where it's illegal to be straight. There are 76 countries in the world where it's illegal to be in a gay relationship, 70 in which it's illegal to be married as gay. 90 countries have conversion therapy as a thing for gays. There's a reason why America has Pride Month. It's to show how far things have changed from when we were just completely against gays to where we were accepting towards them.
It's essentially saying, I'm sorry for dragging your people behind the trucks.
Right. That's why we have Black History Month. There was so many people doing terrible things to black people. And so, what did we do? Here's a whole month where we're saying sorry constantly. And, you know, I feel like, do I feel like restricting it to just a month is kind of rude? Yeah. You should show respect to people year round. It shouldn't be just a once a month thing.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I understand the reason behind it. And the one good thing about it is it's a yearly reminder to remind you, look, the discriminatory mindset's not okay.
Yeah,
but the problem is
we're all in the boat.
Mm-hmm.
The more people rowing, better it'll be.
Mm-hmm. And I have just gone on a random rant. Just generally speaking, I mean, it's just better for everyone to get along. Stop letting petty stuff get in the way. Stop letting stuff that's irrelevant get in the way. I mean, do I think people who are transgender should be open with someone they're dating? Yes, but it's because of the fact that I don't want to sit here and buy a bag of peaches just to get home and find out that somehow it's actually a bag of tomatoes and I didn't know that.
Well, every relationship should be based upon honesty and trust. And exactly. You can't start off with a lie.
Right. Now, do I think that as long as the relationship isn't going into anything romantic in that way has come up, if they should be allowed to keep it to themselves? Sure, because it's not a subject that has to be breached yet.
Yeah.
But if it's one of those dates where you know what y'all are planning on doing when you go home, be honest.
Yeah.
Because
like if you're shaving your legs and you're matching your bra to your underwear.
Yeah. And you have every intentions of going down under, so to speak. Let somebody know what's going on.
So do you think outside of our universe, do you think there's another Earth?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. With how much that goes on in our universe, there's no way that there's not another planet with intelligent life on it. I mean, there's got to be at least one. I mean, if there's, you know, they say that every light you see in the sky is a star like our sun. Well, if that's the case, there are infinite galaxies out there. You can't tell me in a situation with infinite galaxies that we're the only intelligent life.
I don't necessarily think we're the most intelligent.
No, I would definitely agree with that. There's bound to be more intelligent. In fact, that might be why they haven't communicated with us, is they took one look at us and went, no. Like, there's one that I saw, this comedic bit I saw that just made me laugh. He says, what if it's because if you look at how our atmosphere is, oxygen rusts things. So what if it when every time we breathe in, we're slowly rusting our lungs, and that's why we only live to be about 100 years, because that's as long as our body's able to handle it. And the aliens are looking at us going, no, don't go near the death breathers. They literally breathe in death recreationally. And so they could very well not be having shit to do with us because they think we're a threat. And they're like, and they're sitting there going, look, they killed their own for fun. Why would we? No. And it's just, I think that if aliens did come to our planet, we'd get one of three situations. We would all already be so numb from all the different BS we've been through that we just wouldn't care. Especially if they looked a lot like us and it was hard to distinguish us from them. I don't think we would care. We would all freak the hell out and try to destroy them out of fear. Or it would be the people of the internet situation where we're all like, please take us with you, mate with us, please. And we would get very Rule 34 with it.
I have found in a lot that humans tend to do number two. Anything that they don't understand, they want to destroy it.
Right. Just like, that's one of the reasons.
It's like with snakes.
Oh, yeah. Like, I've only ever killed one snake, and that was because it was literally acting violent towards everyone. There was no trying to get it to go to a place where it'd be safe. It was just vehemently trying to attack anyone. That's one of the reasons, though, the lack of understanding. I like cryptids and stuff because I want to know more about them, but I know that we as people are so dumb and so fearful that we will never actually get to understand them unless somebody is an asshole and kills them. Like Loch Ness. I would love to go down to Loch Ness and see that creature rise up out of the water and just look at me and then go back in the water. I would be happy with that. But I know the moment that beautiful creature rises up out of the water, some asshole nearby is going to have a rifle in hand ready to fire. And I hate the fact that they would be willing to do that. But I love the thought of studying stuff we do not understand. I've always wanted to be a cryptozoologist for that reason. Granted, finding a college that teaches that course in all seriousness is very hard. But the thought of being able to study things like, there's one here in Alabama called the Alabama White Thing, which is essentially an all-white Bigfoot.
Like a Yeti?
Yeah. And then, Yeti, Abominable Snowman, Bigfoot, all the creatures, Sasquatch, all the creatures of that nature.
They're like bears.
Yeah.
They adapt to their area.
Yeah, and there's something that we should be trying to learn more about. But I feel like, for one, we make too many assumptions as is, like assuming the sound that they're making when they're on their hunts. When you see these guys doing squatch hunting or whatever, they're like, oh, this is the mating call of the Sasquatch. Okay. For the sake of argument, let's say you're right. Let's say that's the mating call of the Sasquatch. Do you have a plan when that muff comes running at you full tilt with an erection, with intentions of mating? Or are you just planning on winging it, my friend? Because I'm sorry, y'all say these things are 7 foot tall. If we're going by the rules of proportion, that means their erection's probably about this big. So you really ready to risk taking that because you wanted to see it?
You gonna see it, alright.
You're gonna see it. It's gonna be the last thing you see. Because I guarantee you, the cameraman's gonna be booking it the opposite direction. He's gonna be like, I don't want to see this.
He's after you, not me.
Right, you're the one that made the call, and he figured that out. I'm leaving.
I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun one of my friends.
And with Loch Ness, people are so determined to disprove its existence that they're not. I don't feel like they're really willing to look into it. And then, of course, you got the Mothman, which is a really cool sounding one. And then, of course, I don't know if you've heard of the Hopkinsville Goblin or not, but it is. So, I can't remember which state it's in, but it's in a town called Hopkinsville. And it's this backwoods family, like, live out in the country, out in the forest, in like an old cabin-style house back in the day. And they had some family friends over. Well, they start hearing this weird sound coming from outside, and it's like this weird metallic sound. They just don't really know how to explain it. And these weird colored lights. And they look outside, and they see, like, these beings that look like they're standing about maybe 3 foot tall. And they're kind of like just... And they're hearing this weird metallic noise come from these creatures. And in the distance, they see those weird colored lights. Well, one of the guys, a good old boy, grabs a shotgun, goes outside to fire off a shot at one of them. The bullet bounces off of it. And it darts off into the woods. And then shortly after, all the others do too. Well, they're like, okay, that was weird. So they tell their friends, stay the night. Because we don't know if those things are still out there. We don't know if they're a threat. Later that night, they hear it again. They look out the window, and they realize these things are crawling all over their house. These things are out in the yard. Well, the father goes and tries to shoot them off of the house. It bounces off them. He sees one, shoots it, and it takes off running towards the woods. Well, he follows it this time. Him and his son follow it. And they say they end up in this big fielded area on the edge of the woods. And all of a sudden, there's this bright light and these colored lights flashing from all areas. And then all of a sudden, the metallic sound stops. The light disappears, and it's over. They go back to the house. None of the creatures are there. Now, some people have theorized that these are aliens. They went back to their UFO, whatever. Some call it the Hopkinsville Goblin because it was a goblinoid-looking creature. In fact, Sableye, the Pokemon, is based off of the Hopkinsville Goblin story. And it's just so crazy to me that creatures like that exist in lore, but people are like, no, they couldn't exist. I mean, there's goblin lore in almost every culture, or something goblin-esque. You've got brownies, you've got goblins, you've got dwarves, you've got the little people. Literally any culture you go into has these concepts of little creatures, little humanoid creatures who live underground, who like shiny objects, and I mean, it could just be like little midget people who have severe ADHD and just love to fuck with people. But
what if it's not?
Exactly. There's always this possibility of what if everything we try to believe is not true is true. And because we're so determined to not believe in it, that's why we're not seeing it.
Jess is saying it's 7.
Yeah, that means it's time for us to go.
Is there anything I need to click to?
There should be a button on your screen that says Leave Studio. You'll click that.
Okay.
Or it should say
I didn't
end.
know if y'all had a outro. All right. Well, until next time.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Good night.